I'm truly honored to be speaking with Daniel Ellsberg. He was a Marine who went on to become a military analyst during the Vietnam War. But when he learned our government had been lying to us about the war in Vietnam, he ultimately decided to share the truth with the public by leaking the famous Pentagon Papers study to the press.
The name balls Ellsberg. We gotta get this son of a bitch.
Dan was the first person in history to be prosecuted for sharing true information with the American people. He faced life in prison, and he's here with us to talk about his experience and what's going on today in the current case against Julian Assange, the former editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, who now faces life in prison for exposing the truth about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's the first time in history the government has prosecuted a publisher for sharing true information.
So let me go right to Assange. What are the parallels between my case and his? I was the first person charged under these charges for putting out information to the American public. In retrospect, I was sure to be convicted because the fix was in. I didn't know that at the time. My judge was very smart. My lawyer said, we're never going to get an appeal on this guy on technical flaws here. You know, he knows what he's doing. And we knew that he was a conservative Democrat, so forth, law and order Democrat. But actually, I had the law on my side, it turned out. The Constitution on my side at that point, for what that's worth. The word came in that my former psychoanalyst office had been burglarized on the orders of the Oval Office of the president.
The name balls Ellsberg. We gotta get this son of a bitch.
And it turns out he'd done a whole series of crimes. He'd involved the CIA, including trying to incapacitate me on the steps of the Capitol on May 3rd, 1972.
White House operatives ordered Cuban CIA assets to attack Ellsberg at an anti-war rally. The rally was scheduled long in advance, but as a coincidence, longtime FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover died, so the rally ended up taking place the same time as a memorial service for Hoover. The Cuban CIA assets were led to believe the crowd would be on their side when they attacked Ellsberg.
They were going to beat me to death. They expected at the time that they had a friendly crowd. They had been misled to believe I was infiltrating Hoover mourners. Hoover was lying in state in the Capitol that day. And these people were led to believe that my people and I were interfering with that. We were on the other side of the Capitol, as the Cubans noticed when they finally came close. And then when they called me traitor, traidor from the crowd, they recognized that they were not in a crowd of Hoover mourners. And so one of them came up to Macho Barker and said, there's something fishy here. These people don't like it when we call Ellsberg traitor. There's something fishy here. Now, they were CIA assets, knowing that, as one of them put it, we were being set up to be caught. So they were clever enough to throw it. They got into fights on the edge of the crowd, were led away by park police, and released to the care of Hunt and Liddy using expired FBI and CIA credentials. And then they went to visit the Watergate that night, their next target on this, see? Wheels within wheels.
God, the next night. I didn't realize it was the next night. Wow.
No, they didn't go in the next night. Went that night to reconnoiter the Watergate. Said, this is your next target. It was a couple of weeks later that they went in.
Okay, still, that's pretty close.
Okay, not to go through the whole story. A series of crimes against me while I was on trial came out. A bunch of things. My having been overheard on illegal surveillance, warrantless surveillance, and the incapacitation and so forth. All these things led the judge to dismiss charges against me with prejudice, so they couldn't be brought again.
The story today is what the Constitution of this country means to us. I've never appreciated what the meaning and importance of separation of powers is so much as in the last week.
I was saved by the revelations, the unpredictable revelations of crime, just as in Julian's case, there has been revelation now of governmental crime against him. In terms of Assange's case, We have just learned on the next to last and the last day the testimony was scheduled. Sworn testimony comes in that he was being surveilled every minute of his discussions with his lawyer and with everybody else. It started in 2016 under Obama, but really got heavy in 2017. In the first month of Trump's office, they start intensive surveillance of Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy. Tremendous surveillance. It's absurd to think this case could continue in a U.S. court when every one of his conversations and all of the documents and everything have been photographed with his lawyers. Should he be extradited to a country from Britain where he could not possibly face a fair trial because of this? So Assange's extradition hearing should be over. This is like a miracle. It's the miracle the way my trial ended. It happened to me.
Can I ask you, so, okay, in your case, it was unwarranted wiretaps. And unfortunately now that's no longer illegal. Nobody would get off
legal
because of the Patriot Act.
But that's legal. To have warrantless wiretaps is essentially legal now. To listen in on somebody's lawyer's conversations with him, I'm not sure they could, whether that would be a crime or not, is not for me to say. I'd have to have legal advice on that. Yeah. But when my case was dismissed, we moved out of the apartment we'd had for a year and a half. And a day or two after we moved out, a CBS television crew came in to film a commercial because we had a nice view over Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. And they were having trouble plugging in their television set. One of the cameramen who had been in Army counterintelligence looked into the plug and unscrewed it. There was a bug in it in the living room. So then they looked at some of the other plugs and they found another one in the bedroom. So somebody did hear all of our conversations in the bedroom, in the living room during our trial. I don't think we had many legal discussions with my lawyer. I don't remember any in the bedroom. But in terms of, what they were telling me, my views, yes. Does that mean they weren't bugging the lawyers? No, I don't think so. I think they were bugging the lawyers. But we didn't find it. In this case, they found it.
The allegations of illegal spying come from two former employees of the security firm UC Global. They say the firm not only partnered with U.S. intelligence to spy on Assange, but also discussed plans to steal the DNA of Assange's young son. And that's not all.
And what else did they discuss with the CIA? Poisoning him. As discussions of incapacitation of me were held in the Oval Office and elsewhere.
They plan to poison you too.
No.
Well,
not with
it's kind of funny that I'm attempting to correct you on your own story. But didn't Hunt write that there were plans to
the LSD?
Exactly, poison you with LSD so that before you were given a speaking engagement. Well, go ahead.
They did plan that, but I'll tell you just between us, LSD is not poison. And in fact, I was familiar enough with its effects that had they put it in my soup planned, I would have known what was happening and not been unhappy with it.
Maybe it would have made for a better speech. Who knows? Okay.
It would depend how large a dose. They were making me Federal Employee of the Year at this dinner. There was about 300 people there. And had Liddy succeeded, as he says in his memoir, in getting the LSD in my soup. See, he thought of it. To these guys, that was very...
It would discredit, yeah. He thought it would discredit you if you would lose composure.
And for Jack Anderson, they were going to put LSD on the steering wheel of his car in a liquid solution, where he drove from Annapolis to Washington Bay on the freeway.
That's a assassination plan.
That is an assassination plan. Yeah. Not that it would have been sure to work, but that was the intent, was to kill him. So these were assassins, actually, not all of them. but the number one people were Frank Sturgis, who was involved in assassination plots. So when Snowden was in Hong Kong, or we didn't know where he was exactly at first, I was saying Snowden was in danger of his life, and other people were saying, said an Atlantic blog, Ellsberg has lost it off the wall here now, he's hyperbole. And so I said, you're talking to someone who had 12 people brought up from Miami with orders to incapacitate me. And when I said to the prosecutor who told me that, Bill Merrill, what does that mean? Kill me? He said the words were to incapacitate you totally. He said, but you have to understand these guys, meaning CIA agents, never use the word kill. Never. Terminate with extreme prejudice. Neutralize, and so forth. They don't use a word that you might be overheard using.
Now that story, that's a huge story that the CIA tried to, or planned, discussed poisoning Julian Assange. So my question is, why is the mainstream media not covering this? Because we talked about the similarities. Now, some of the differences between your case and Assange case is when it was discovered that you were being spied on and there were plots against you, that made the headlines in the mainstream media. Nobody's talking about it now in the mainstream media. What's up with that?
What I just told you is, as you say, sensational news about the CIA and about this case. Not one line has appeared in the Washington Post or the New York Times about it. They haven't even picked up the one American story, an AP story that comes to them. They haven't had a line from the AP on it. Now, what is that? I frankly don't have an easy answer to that one. Not a line. It's very like the Catherine Gunn situation in England.
Catherine Gunn, who risked everything to blow the whistle on U.S. dirty tricks at the United Nations in the lead up to the Iraq invasion in 2003.
She revealed that we were spying on the UN members in order to blackmail them into voting for the Iraq war.
And then what happened?
And then I was taken away to
arrested.
Police custody, yes, and kept overnight in a police cell.
Headline news all over the world. All over the world. Not a word in the Times. Not a word. There was a little piece in the LA Times and the Washington Post, both saying, this is nothing here to observe, folks. Everybody bugs everybody all the time. No problem. Headline news all over the world. And at the end of the year, when Catherine Gunn was about to go on trial, I get a call from the New York Times. Bob Herbert, columnist for the New York Times, calls me up to me because I'd been so much quoted as having said, this leak was more effective and more important than the Pentagon Papers. So I got quoted a lot in that case, and I've been very involved in the defense. So he called me up and won my opinion on the trial and so forth. And I said, Bob, this will be the first time the words Catherine Gunn have appeared in your paper. And he said, that's right. I looked up LexisNexis this morning just to see what we've been saying about it. There was no story. I said, yeah, I know. He said, how do you explain that? I said, Bob, you're asking me? You're on the Times. I'm not on the Times. Ask your ombudsman what's going on here.
There are very few ombudsmans now. Unfortunately, things are getting worse, but go ahead.
They've lost theirs. Yeah, on the Times. For a reason not unlike this, by the way. They didn't like what she was calling them on. But I think in that case, my strong guess, that was a case that involved communications intelligence, like Snowden's. See, communications intelligence, higher than top secret. I think somebody from the White House or the Defense Department or NSA called the Times and said, this is communications intelligence. Stay away from it. Don't get involved. There is a law, by the way, against leaking communications intelligence. We don't have an Official Secrets Act for stuff that is merely top secret. We do for communications intelligence. Okay, so stay away from it. And in this case, it's hard not to believe that they were told somehow to stay away from this. I don't know, but it is very notable, as you say, blackout on this. in the press so far. Good work, Matt. I've seen your other clips here. Very good stuff.
Man, great job, Matt.
He goes by the name Orf.
Someone that I respect and whose work I admire.
Let's call him Matto, because I don't want to butcher his name.
Matt Orfalea.
Matt Orfalea.
Matt Orfalea.
Subscribe to him.
Matt Orfalea.
Matt Orfalea.
Matt Orfalea.
Matt Orfalea.